Today is April 20th, 2022, and we know what day it is. If you know, you know. We can't mention it, but if you know. And I want to tell you a funny story about today's date and what today's date signifies and the accessory that Solange, Beyonce's younger sister, is carrying in this photo. So the photo is of a Met Gala outfit she had. She carried a bottle of Florida water. That's important. So a few months ago in February, I smelled this extremely strong smell in my apartment that did not belong there. Now, I work at a hospital, and plus I have a textile business. So that smell cannot be smelt on me. I can get in trouble for that. And plus, with the business, people may not want that smell just because I live in Washington State, where you have the right to partake. That is not a smell people in other states either want to smell or can without getting into trouble. So it happened a couple weekends in a row because I was just going to let it go. I'm thinking it's a weekend thing. It's a one time. No, he did it. It was done like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And so after about the second week, excuse me, I went to the manager. I'm like, listen, there's a smell. Can you send out a notice saying that, we're not supposed to smoke in the building because the owner is a real miser, and especially this particular type of smell. And the manager's like, oh, okay, well, if you smell it again, let us know. Okay. So time goes on, smell it again. It's always a weekend thing. So I told the manager about a couple more times later, and he's like, well, could you put it in writing? And I'm looking at him like, dude, just send out a notice. And he doesn't want to send out a notice. He's like, oh, there's so many apartments. And I'm like, just email a notice. I don't care. And so a few more times, and finally I speak to the manager again. The manager's like, putting it in writing. So this is the second time he's told me to put it in writing. And I'm sitting there thinking, if I'm going to have to put it in writing, I'm going to go to the owner because you're not doing your job as management. And so the next time that it happened, which was about 3 weeks ago, because like I said, it's a weekend thing, I decided, wait a second, I know something I can do, and I need to practice energy work, right? So the first thing I did is I went and I made sure it wasn't coming from downstairs because it didn't smell like it was coming downstairs the first couple times it did. This time it did not. And so I went downstairs to the floor below me and walked one side of the building and the other side. And it's a quick walk. It's not like a huge building. And I smelled nothing. Came back to my floor, walked the opposite side of my building, short hallway, smelt nothing. Walked down my hallway and it was strong. Oh my God. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I could tell the owner or the manager, or I can just do what I needed to do. So I remembered I had bought some Florida water, right? Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I know where the smell is coming from. So I go all the way to the end of my hallway. Nothing. The smell was right across from my apartment. And I'm just like, of course it is. And people know, like, people who work there and people who live in the building know a black lady lives in this apartment. So if you were to pass our apartments, of course you'd think it was me. You wouldn't think it was the person across. Why? Because the person across me is this dorky looking, nerdy Asian dude who keeps really unusual hours. I mean, I've been up at 4 o'clock in the morning doing stuff, like checking the mail or doing early laundry because I used to. I don't do that anymore. Dude would be coming and going. Like he'd go to he'd run outside of the building, come back in. It's like, dude, what are you doing? And you may not think it's sketchy. It's sketchy. Okay. I'm doing laundry. That's bad enough. And this dude's like conducting business at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. You should be asleep. But whatever, it's really not my business. But, all kinds of scenario. So this really dorky looking Asian dude is hotboxing in his damn apartment. I'm like, no. So I'm just like, well, how do I handle this? Because I don't want to get him in trouble. I just want him to like open windows and whatnot. So I'm like, well, yeah, let's sprinkle some Florida water on his door and see what happens. Now, mind you, I had no ill intent. My intent was, hey, enjoy what you need to do. Just be aware of that smell. Open a window. That was my thought process because I'm not wishing him ill will. He's a nice enough guy. I've had minimal to no interaction to him. It's like, I think we interacted like 2 or 3 times saying hello. So I don't have any ill will to the guy. No reason to. So I open up my door and I look down the hall, make sure nobody's coming out down the hall, make sure nobody's coming off the elevator. And I sprinkle just from my doorway. I opened the cap of the Florida water and I sprinkled Florida water on his door. Like it was the most ridiculous thing you could ever think to see. So I only sprinkled a little bit, like 2 little sprinkles, and then I quickly closed my door. And of course I was thinking good vibes and good thoughts. I wanted to see if the energy work would do. I wanted to see if the Florida water would work. I haven't smelled anything in 3 weeks. So yeah, Florida water works. I didn't think it would. I was just using it for me. But yeah, if you're having trouble with enemies or people just not acting right, sprinkle a little Florida water on their doors, but wish them good thoughts. Don't wish ill will. Um, but I thought that would be a funny video or a funny story for today's specific date of 4/20/2022. Alrighty? I hope that made you laugh. Y'all have